I had my gallbladder removed and went home. I had to be rushed back to the local hospital 2 days after the procedure. They found a large pocket of bile in my abdomen. I was then moved to a major hospital. I had gone 4 days without food or water, just intravenous fluids and tongue swabs. I was on incredible amounts of pain medication. The doctor at the major hospital was amazed at this amount of medication and he tried to lower it. But, I woke up screaming in pain to the point of losing my voice. Nurses and doctors rushed in and the levels of medications were raised once again. I was a daily drinker at the time. A 6-pack a day was not uncommon, and I have been told this has an effect on the effectiveness of pain medication. My vitals kept dropping, I had a fever, and my gut continued leaking toxic bile into my body. The specialist came and told me that things didn't look very good. He said, "I'm very good at what I do. I'm even one of the best, but things happen and I can't promise you anything." I fully accepted the extent of what I was facing. They had given me pain medication before taking me to surgery and had to give me more before the procedure. This was on top of the anesthesia that put me under. I went through the procedure and it was successful. But, my body had been badly damaged. Once they got me back up to my room, they started pumping me with tons of drugs, including more intravenous and oral pain medication. I even questioned the nurse because I was feeling no pain, and she reassured me that I was going to need it. And that we needed to stay ahead of the pain. About 20 minutes later, I started to realize that I was having to remind myself to breathe. I should have informed the nurse, but instead I let myself start drifting. There was a movie playing on the TV and I recall saying to myself, "Wow, these are some good drugs because I feel like I'm at a rave." I was seeing a fantastic array of colors. I've done LSD and psilocybin mushrooms and they are sugar candy compared to what I was experiencing. Soon I was wrapped in the colors and felt my spirit being lifted upward. I started passing through what felt like different realms, like veils of energy. As I was lifted through each veil, I began to move faster and faster to the point I felt like I was traveling at light speed. Each time I passed through a realm, I could see geometrical forms that looked like sacred geometry. I would absorb each one and it was as if I was receiving all the knowledge of the universe. I was having 1,000,000,000,000 thoughts a second. I was aware of all things. I felt like I was back in a familiar place once again. At that moment I was pulled through the final veil, everything was perfectly still. I was in a place that felt like the center of the universe. I could see galaxies slowly spinning as they revolved around me, and I was aware that I was not alone. I was being held in the still presence of a universal spirit. I was filled with a truly indescribable feeling of pure love. I was one with this spirit, filled with love and the knowledge of the universe. I knew I was home. The presence of love never spoke in any human fashion, but I still felt like I had all understanding. The next thing I knew, I was being woken by a nurse telling me I could finally have something to drink. Before this experience, I was in a really bad place in life. I was drinking a lot and was having a lot of suicidal thoughts. I probably would have actually gone through with it if it weren't for my love for my wife and daughter. After the experience, I woke the next day feeling like all that had been lifted off me. I felt like I was once again in balance with the universe. Unfortunately, that only lasted a couple of months. As the memory of the experience faded, I felt increasingly depressed. I tried desperately to hold on to that feeling of love but just couldn't. I had stopped drinking, but it wasn't long until all my old habits had come back and I was back in that darkness. I questioned what happened with me and began to just write it off as some side effect of medication overdose. I was still in a lot of pain from the procedures and the doctors couldn't figure out why. Life seemed to go from bad to worse, and then something strange happened. I had YouTube playing on my TV and was half paying attention to it. I had let it play random videos. One came on with a guy who was talking about his honest experience with heroin. He was talking about how he loved to push heroin to the limit and how he had a NDE while on it. He started talking about being lifted up through different levels and seeing different geometrical shapes. That really got my attention. He basically went on to describe a nearly identical experience to mine. All of a sudden, the memories of the experience came rushing back to me. I could see everything I had experienced once again, and that feeling of love washed over me. I was so overwhelmed, I sent the YouTuber a message to see if he would talk to me more in depth about his experience. I never heard from him, so I started doing research in the internet to see if I could find others that had similar experiences. I came across a few others who had NDEs with similar experiences. I think it was at that point that I accepted that I must have also had a NDE and that the things that I experienced were real. After this acceptance, I began feeling a drive for life. I quit smoking and drinking. I just passed a year in October. I began seeking more spiritual knowledge, and I opened myself up to the universe more, and things in my life began to change. I was at peace for the first time in a very long time. I understood that the spirit is our true nature and that these earthly lives were given to us as a sort of vacation from the all-knowing nature of our true spirit selves. We should live these lives with fervor and with as little stress as possible. The more I open myself up to that still nature, the more balance I achieve in this physical life. Now that I feel that I have purpose in this world, I have gotten healthier and even started my own business. I no longer have suicidal thoughts. I try to be a more open, understanding person. The NDE was truly the best thing that ever happened to me, and I am thankful for the gift.